It is now 5 o'clock. We will begin the workshop for the Board of Mayor and Aldermen for February 27th, 2014. Tonight we will begin with the Citizens Forum. We do have 5 people that wish to speak. I would like to remind everyone that this is being televised live. The comments are limited to 3 minutes each. And if you would, please tell your name and why you're here when you come up to the podium, please. First on the list is Terry Campbell. Mr. Terry? Okay, sorry.
My name is Terry Campbell. My address is 105 Fleetwood Court, Laverne, Tennessee. My pressing concern this evening is why hasn't the City of Laverne extended a certificate of occupancy to the Word of Life Church? I have resided at the address since October of 1995. I'm also the pastor of Giles Creek Baptist Church in Smyrna, Tennessee. Since 2005, we've assisted 14 churches building in 7 different states. A greater concern is also the overall image the City of Laverne has portrayed in this process to the members of Word of Life, to the citizens of Laverne, and to the readers and the viewers of the various articles by various means of the press. The decisions this council makes represents and also reflects upon the citizens of Laverne. The first question I would ask of the city, are we given the appearance of that we, the citizens of the City of Laverne, are we being religiously antagonistic? Why wouldn't we as a community of citizens welcome the building of a church and the future growth of churches? Churches offer positive attributes to our city. The second question I have to ask of the city, is it giving off the appearance that we, the citizens of Laverne, are being racially adversarial? I need not to remind the city of its well-documented past concerning lawsuits that involve racism cost the taxpayers millions of dollars. We can ill afford another lawsuit that even has the appearance of ill treatment toward a group of any ethnic background. Perception becomes reality if we're not careful of our appearance. My last question I want to ask of the city, are we getting off the appearance that we, the citizens of Laverne, had created a regime of abuse and arrogance? We've allowed a church that was once experiencing growth, thus the need to build, and now have relegated it to a church of decline because of our rules and regulations. It has always been my perception that building codes were used to be as a shield to protect its residents. Never have they been designed to be used as a sword to cripple the very people they were to serve. It brings us to a discussion over a sidewalk and a telecommunications cabinet. First of all, we're looking at a sidewalk that goes nowhere with no connections to either end. I drove the approximate 2.5 miles of Old Nashville Highway from Sam Bradley to beyond Stones River Road. One glaring notable, no sidewalks. First Baptist Church of Laverne, no sidewalks. Laverne Church of Christ, no sidewalks. Grace Church at the corner of Stones River Road and Old Nashville Highway does have some sidewalk footage, so I inquired of their pastor, Randy Berg, who paid for those sidewalks. He informed me that the City of Laverne paid for the church for the easement on the corner of their property, then secured a grant from the TDOT in order to build the sidewalks. This was accomplished at no charge to Grace Church. Yet the City of Laverne has insisted Word of Life pay the city a fee of $2,335.95 for a sidewalk that may or may not ever be poured. Also to mention that the church next door has no sidewalks. Also to mention on Old Nashville Highway, the Laverne Civic Center has no sidewalks. All right, thank you.
Next, Cheryl Phelps.
My name is Cheryl Phelps. I live at 127 Sweet Gum Drive, Laverne, Tennessee. I'm here on behalf of the Word of Life Family Worship Center as well. It is the city's position by way of a countersuit that Word of Life Church intentionally misrepresented itself, not including the cabinet on their site plan submittal. A simple explanation is the cabinet didn't exist when the original site plan was submitted. I'm sure that TDS had to get a permit or some sort of permission from the city or the county to install this cabinet. I am certain the city doesn't allow private utility companies to set their devices just anywhere and everywhere. Does the city not require prior notification before such an act is carried out? It wasn't meant to be some big secret. The easement and the cabinet were simply overlooked by the Word of Life Church. I'm sure that TDS understands that the cabinet belongs to them, lock, stock, and barrel. The cabinet doesn't belong to the Word of Life Family Worship Center. Otherwise, Word of Life could put a lock on the cabinet and tell TDS they will be charged for every time they need to access the cabinet. But now the city of Laverne is telling the Word of Life they will have to pay to have the cabinet moved in the event that Old Nashville Highway might be widened someday. The church has been quoted an expenditure of $25,000 to $50,000 to move the cabinet. Are we denying a certificate of occupancy for this church based on a future hypothetical of something that isn't even in the plans? According to a blog I read by Mayor Senna Mosley in responding to a citizen inquiring of when will Old Nashville Highway be widened, she responded, I have been talking about this for the last 4 years and no one seems to be listening. I spoke to the city engineer Tuesday evening at the Planning Commission meeting, and he informed me that there are no current plans to widen Old Nashville Highway. Besides that, the city of Laverne couldn't afford to widen that road in our current financial situation without the assistance of federal and state funding. That assistance may take years to procure. But if we are going to deal in hypothetical, let me propose one. Suppose an uninsured motorist is driving down Old Nashville Highway tomorrow. He drives off the road and destroys this telecommunication cabinet. Do you think TDS is going to wait for Word of Life to raise $50,000 to replace that cabinet? Absolutely not. Even the thought is ludicrous. TDS will have it back up and running within days, if not within hours. Why? Because the cabinet is their responsibility, and they have a responsibility to their customers. In July of 2009, then Governor Bill Bredesen signed into law the Tennessee Religious Freedom Restoration Act. As I understand the law, it has basically 5 provisions. The petitioner involved must be able to establish I'm sorry. Okay, thank you.
So Eddie Appleton, am I saying that correctly? Mr. Appleton?
Yeah, I am a member of the church, and I was really shocked at the thing that is going on. I ride around Old Nashville Highway, a lot of more other churches, and I don't see any trees planted or shrubberies had to be planted, sidewalks. So I'm really puzzled. Why did we have to do all of this? You know, that's a question that really need to be answered. That's all I have to say.
Pastor Wellington Johnson.
My name is Wellington Johnson, pastor of Word of Life Family Worship Center located 555 Old Nashville Highway. In terms of the Religious Restoration Freedom Act, the petitioner involved must be able to establish they have a sincere religious belief. The petitioner must show that a government action or actions have created a substantial burden on their ability to act on their religious beliefs. The government must show they are acting in the furtherance of a compelling state interest. The government must also show they have acted in a manner that was the least restrictive means to achieve that compelling interest. And 5, if the petitioner is successful in presenting their case to the court, the Tennessee Religious Freedom Reformation Act contains a provision that the government agency will be required to pay all court costs and litigation fees. So let's abandon any conversations of a being, an entity that is religiously antagonistic, or of being racially adversarial, or of a regime of abuse or arrogance. Let's rest our minds on applying a reasonable analysis. The facts are, the building is safe and structurally sound, Word of Life Family Worship Center. It has passed an inspection of the foundation. It has passed a framing inspection, an electrical, plumbing, and mechanical inspections. All of these inspections were performed by city inspectors. All reasonable site requirements have been met. I ask you to reconsider and approve the certificate of occupancy for Word of Life Church, for its members, and for the citizens of Laverne. We don't need another lawsuit and the liability that comes with it. Let's avoid any further expense of litigation. I believe in rules. I also believe in fairness. I respectfully ask this council to rethink its position and grant the Word of Life Church a certificate of occupancy. I thank you for the opportunity to speak before you and express our opinion and our concerns. May God bless you and may God bless us all. Thank you.
Mr. Ross Shanklin.
My name is Ross M. Shanklin. I live at 749 Wallen Road in the Walnut Ridge Estate since 1988. I have pastored in this community since 1979 at the Mount Zion Missionary Baptist Church. We organized and pastored the Emmanuel Missionary Baptist Church here in Laverne, Tennessee. I have served on the Board of Appeals for the city of Laverne under Mayor Winfrey. And I'm known in this community as the preacher man. Mr. Jerry Butler, Alderman Walden, we're all friends. And I'm very proud to be a citizen of this community and have been treated and respected in this community. But as a member of Word of Life for the past 2 years, it is very, very difficult to understand how the city of Laverne has treated Word of Life Church. And we feel that this Christian community should grant Word of Life a certificate of occupancy. Thank you very much.
All right. I now deem the Citizens Forum closed. We will now begin with our regular workshop meetings. Prayer will be by Alderman Waldron, and I will have the Pledge of Allegiance. You do have 3 sets of minutes that you need to review over prior to Tuesday. So please review over those and make sure that we don't have any corrections that need to be made. First order of business tonight, we'll be talking about the second reading, Ordinance 2014-02, an ordinance to amend the Laverne zoning ordinance as it relates to home daycare regulations. Received a favorable recommendation from the Planning Commission on January 28, 2014. This is the second reading, but Ms. Costanzo, if you'll refresh everyone's memory on that, please.
Certainly. I've recently brought before you an ordinance to add a couple of provisions to the definitions for home daycare and for daycare center to the definitions section in the municipal zoning ordinance. We simply wanted to add a provision that states, any place, home, or institution licensed and inspected annually by the state of Tennessee's Department of Human Services, so that we do have the official certification from DHS, so that we know that these centers and homes are being inspected annually by the right authority, just to protect the city.
Any questions? Again, this will be the second reading, and do we have a public hearing?
There is a public hearing at 6:30 on Tuesday night.
Okay. Excellent. Next, we're moving on to our consent agenda items. First, approve recommendations for city bids and purchases. Number 1, bid 18-inch water line near the roundabout. Mr. Beal.
On Tuesday, we took bids on the proposed 18-inch water line around the roundabout. It's to connect the 24-inch line to the existing 18-inch line to help us move water out of the water plant into the system. This was included in the bid, it's included in the bond issue that the city passed recently. We had 5 bidders. Low bidder was Scott and Ritter. They've done work here before. As a matter of fact, they're doing work here now. They've got the Mason Road pump station under construction. We checked their license and their limits, and that all verified out through the state of Tennessee. Their bid was $325,200. That was less than our estimate. Our estimate was over $500,000. So we will recommend to the city at the next meeting that they award that contract to the low bidder, Scott and Ritter, in the amount of $325,200. And if I remember right, the construction time is 120 days. So it should be installed and working by the end of this summer.
That's great. We've been waiting a long time for that.
Yes.
Any questions? Any questions? Do you have anything else on here, Bill?
No, ma'am, that's all I've got.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks.
Next, we have the Lake Forest Park Cemetery fencing.
We had about 5 or 6 responses to this, and after discussing this with Kathy, it will be coming out of the public relations budget. It is going to be needed to go around the cemetery to keep people out, but to keep it intact. We're looking at $10,685, and that will go outside the size that we originally were asking for, so that it includes the tree line. But it should look nice, but safety for the children not to get into the area of the graves, and then the graves be kept, hopefully. People won't destroy them.
And if I'm not mistaken, this was promised years ago when the city was given that piece of property. If y'all remember when they tore it down and were building the park, they said then, I think I was early years of being alderman, that they were told that they would put the fence back. So it's been a long time coming.
Well, it'll be a nice fence, too.
Yeah. Okay. Do I have any questions? Any questions on that one? Okay. Alicia, do you have the next one, or is that?
Yes.
Okay.
It's a sole source purchase of the safe coat for the baseball fields. If you'll remember, a couple months ago, they started and we brought in the dirt. Well, now it's time to bring in the safe coat. And that is a sole source. When David tried to go to the direct, they let him know that they had to go through the local distributor, which is Warner Athletics. So we'll be going through them.
Okay.
And then I've got the next one, which is, they will be in, we do not have a laser grader at this time. That is something that they have asked for, and we will be purchasing eventually, but at this time we don't have a laser grader. So we're gonna go ahead and pay Warner's to take care of making sure the fields are all the safe coat, the clay, everything's on there, and it's laser graded so that they can start with their ball program, hopefully on time. The weather holds out.
That's been an issue for us too, the weather.
The weather.
It's kind of slowed us down. And we've done most everything ourselves. We've removed all the sod and actually put clay on the fields, but without the laser grader, there's issues with humps and being unlevel in some spots, and it's a safety issue. So we can get that knocked out, and then maybe in the future, you know, us get one and we're done. We can do the rest of it ourselves.
All righty.
Okay, and the next one is, we would like permission to purchase up to 6 fire hydrants under 10,000, and then next month I'll come back with a bid for fire hydrants, because the water department's in need of some fire hydrants at this time.
You said 6.
Up to 6, because that's what we figured that is to stay under 10,000. But next month I will come back with the bid to continue purchasing them.
Excellent. Any questions? Any questions? Finished? B, approve personal and property damage release for the Tennessee Farmers Cooperative to allow the Stormwater Department to fix a ditch line on the property. Is that Kyle?
Mayor, this is the easement that y'all approved a few months back. Basically, the co-op, I guess their legal looked more into it and decided that that's not really enough protection kind of for them. So they've got basically a release that they want the city to sign. Evan has reviewed it. I know he just stepped out, but I don't think he had any issues with it. He just want to make sure it went in front of the board for approval. I think their biggest concern is if we get on their property and one of our employees or somebody gets hurt, they're really not protected from, you know, us and just other things like that. It's kind of what's in it.
And to refresh everybody's memory, this is the ditch line that goes across where we have all the flooding right there on Walden Road. And we're trying to relieve some of the water that's pooling there on those citizens right in there.
Ed, maybe a comment on the actual release. This is that co-op.
Okay.
The damage release that the attorney sent. Was you okay with?
Well, yeah, I mean, if we're gonna come on their property, they just want us to be responsible if we mess anything up, for lack of a better explanation.
Any questions? C, approve sponsorship agreement with Dick's Sporting Goods for the Laverne Youth Baseball and Softball Leagues. That's you, Mr. AC?
Well, that's basically, I think Julie got the rest of that taken care of today. There may be a couple more things you need to look at and just sign off on it, but I think that's all. That's for them to give us some scorebooks and balls and things. They're just sponsoring us to a certain degree. I think for the tune of $1,800 worth.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's not huge, but hey, we'll take
A
what
little
we can
bit
get.
helps. That's right, that's right.
Yeah.
Awesome. And next, approve use agreement between the City of Laverne and Youth Incorporated for the Inline Hockey League.
No changes really there, other than they're going to get on board with us with the, half the concessions like everybody else, even though they're very small, but, they've always been very cooperative and we don't have any issues there.
Next will be approve agreement with Comcast for business class internet services. Bruce, is that you?
I'm going to let Chief probably talk about that one more. This is to provide more backbone, more internet capacity for our police department especially. I'll let him explain it.
I'm going to use it in Bill Briggs' terms. Pipeline. Our pipeline now we have is about 2 megabyte. Is that right, Glenn? Sorry. Our pipeline now is about a 2 megabyte. This is going to provide 100. What we have coming at us with a new CAD RMS is a tremendous amount of pushing and pulling of things like GIS mapping to the mobile units. With Next Gen 911 coming toward us, we're going to begin very shortly, even after that comes into play, we're going to be looking at the possibility of receiving streaming video or canned video or still photographs with Next Gen 911. We don't have the capacity to take on what the police department's doing. If we start pushing and pulling maps, a couple of things that are going to happen. Others within city government are going to slow down tremendously with sending and receiving, not just email, but anything. The other thing is we're probably going to have all kinds of issues downloading those maps and them pushing out to the mobile units. So we got to have a pipeline to carry the amount of water or data that we're going to need to push and pull. We don't have anywhere near what we have to have. TDS kind of laughed at us when we said that because they don't have the capacity here to provide us what we need. With the issue of TDS being the provider here, we can't go to another vendor such as AT&T. We can go to Comcast. They're already here and in place. But the AT&T side is protected by some federal guidelines. TDS has the business here for the majority of the city and especially for where we are. So this is the only means we can do it unless we use a satellite, and we can't afford to do that. This is going to be a little over $200 a month to have this pipeline in order to be able to communicate back and forth, eventually CAD to CAD with the Sheriff's Department or Smyrna or someone else to communicate with TBI, FBI, Tennessee Department of Safety, et cetera, because each mobile unit will have a computer so that when we respond officers to a scene or we respond fire apparatus to a scene, it's going to be pushing pre-plans, it's going to be pushing information concerning the call that you're going on, and it's going to be a back and forth constantly. So that's the reason we have to have this additional pipe, this bigger pipe to carry the load that we need delivered.
Any questions? Any questions? Thank you, Chief. Approve agreement with eCivis, Inc. for grants research services. Bruce, you got that one?
Yes, ma'am. This is kind of a renewal of the existing eCivis contract that we have with them. We are making some changes. We previously had 2 licenses, and the total cost, I think, was $9,000 per year. We are going down to 1 license since we only have 1 person that's really going to be using it. So that'll save us some money per year. The new dollar amount will be $5,600 per year. Will continue to help us look for grants as well as providing the grants management software and reporting that we need for our grants.
Any questions? All right. Next is motion to appoint or remove board members. We have the Historical Preservation Advisory Committee. We have 2 terms that are vacant. Next, we have the Local Emergency Planning Committee. 1 term is vacant, and that's the Rutherford County Sort.
We'll have to wait on that one.
We'll see. That's right.
This won't be on the agenda for Tuesday, but we'll hope to have it back at the next meeting.
It is kind of funny seeing Chris's name moved. We see you hiding back there. All righty, and next we do have Senior Citizens Advisory Committee. We have 2 terms that are vacant there. And last, we have the Stormwater Appeals Board, and we have 2 terms vacant there. So anyone interested in any of these boards, please come up, see Kathy or Joanne, and we can get you registered and get you on some of these boards.
We don't have anybody that's applied for the senior?
Yes, we have 2.
2.
Mm-hmm. 2 that have applied for that, I'm sorry.
Twice.
Yeah. But I think, yes, so good boards, so everybody come out and get involved. Number 7 is first reading, ordinance 2014-03, an ordinance to amend Title 3, Chapter 6, Section 3-602 of the Laverne Municipal Code regarding traffic school fees. Mr. Richardson.
Currently, our traffic school fees are $85 per person to go to traffic school. Our traffic school has always lasted approximately an hour in the past, and the state has mandated that all traffic school classes consist of a 4-hour class. So we have gone and had 2 or 3 officers get certified as teachers for that class, but it is a 4-hour class. So there are additional costs that will be incurred. We have to buy curriculum. We have to, of course, pay overtime and overhead costs for these classes. So we feel there's a need to increase this traffic school cost to cover these additional costs that we are making to host this class. We are hoping that once this ordinance is put in place, to start this new class in a couple of months and get that process going and be in compliance with state law.
Any questions? Quite quiet tonight. Number 8. First reading, ordinance 2014-04, an ordinance to amend the City of Laverne zoning ordinance by changing the official zoning map for tax map 14, parcel 70, located at 444 Dick Buchanan Street, consisting of 29.2 acres, from a light industrial zoning district to an I3 heavy industrial special zoning district. Received a favorable recommendation from Planning Commission on February 25th, 2014.
Just a minute, after talking to Evan, this company's in the recycling business, and my family's in the recycling business. Evan and me decided to convince me to not vote on this item, and I will not be discussing it.
I'm going to discuss it. I don't think the citizens want this, and they haven't had time to see that it's coming because the sign's on Dick Buchanan, and you've got a whole neighborhood that doesn't even see that sign. And what was it, 800 feet
800.
from a residence? I don't think this is what we need. We've already got some I-3 over there that's not operating properly. And I'd like to defer it so that we can give the citizens time to know what's going on in their back door. Because I don't think you're going to have any citizen comments, because I live over there. I didn't know this was going on. I don't drive down Dick Buchanan. So I think we need to let the citizens know so they can tell us how they feel about it.
I don't have a problem with deferring it. My only thoughts are, this isn't voting on that particular business at this point. It's actually the zoning. So deferring it to give the citizens time to speak out wouldn't be a bad idea.
That's my biggest thing. I want the citizens to know what's going to be in their back door, because, I mean, it says recycling, ferrous metal, plastic. I mean, to me it sounds like trash.
And it is an out-of-state company as well.
I'd like to do some research and see what kind of businesses they have, what they're going to do before we rezone it. I mean, we got quite a bit of recycling in Laverne already. It's really not what we need, but we need citizens to at least know what's coming in behind them. I mean, I'll personally walk around and let them know. It's like I said, there's that one sign, it's right there, and if you don't drive down Dick Buchanan every day, you don't see it.
It's the only flip side is you already have that existing almost across the street there anyway.
But it's not backed up to
I hear you.
You know, and I brought that up at the Planning Commission. I was a single no vote on it because this is such a large parcel, and it does back up to residential. And it's 80 feet from residential property. 800, I'm sorry, 800, let me verify that. It is 800 feet from residential, and it is one of our older neighborhoods, and you get that kind of stuff, you're going to have all kinds of rodents And I'm sorry, but a smell does come with it. On the other side, it does back up to public property, not residential property. And
And I mean, I've talked to a few other people and they're not for it and they're willing to come. It's just, I didn't know this was gonna be on the agenda after Tuesday night. I didn't keep up with it that well.
Mayor, you brought up at the workshop at Public, or Planning Commission, asked Kristen to post some signs maybe over in that subdivision. Did we ever do that, or?
Well, it was discussed whether, I guess at the Planning Commission workshop, the mayor asked if we could send letters to people who live outside of the 500-foot, we're bound by the ordinance to send letters to any resident, actually any business owners or residents within 500-foot radius of the property. With going outside of the 500 feet, Bruce and I had conferred, and we were gonna ask the legal side if there was any issue with going above and beyond what our requirements are, or as far as on behalf of the city sending them out, just because we thought it was something that the legal team needed to evaluate first, so that we couldn't be in any kind of issue in the future, setting precedent and whatnot. So no, there's no letters have been sent out. In fact, they don't usually get sent out per our ordinance until we move further into the process. So we're just at the very extremely beginning stages of the request, I guess.
And this does have to go through 2 readings, and it also has to go have a public hearing as well.
Typically, our process is to approve it on first reading, and then we'll schedule the public hearing and everything for the prior to the second reading. With this being an I-3 rezoning request, there are additional hoops that will have to be jumped through as far as once it's approved by the Board of Mayor and Aldermen, it has to go back through the Board of Zoning Appeals and essentially come back before the Mayor Alderman again for another ordinance. I think it's an ordinance for 2 readings, and a public hearing. So essentially, with it being an I-3, this board will have to have 2 separate public hearings before the process is finalized. This is just the very first step as far as the first reading of this ordinance. Once this gets first approval is when we would send our notices out to the residents within 500 feet, because that's what our requirements are. Obviously, I think the board could request that we send notices out to additional people, but there again, we do have concerns of setting a precedence there for any future rezonings down the road.
Well, like I said, I've already said what I'm going to ask, because I mean, I've done a little research on this company, and they're around McMinnville. I'd like to go see what they're doing there, see if take pictures maybe, do a little research on this company, see what kind of business. I mean, because I don't know them, they're from out of state. Don't know anything about them, nor does anybody else. I'd just like to know what's going on. And I think the people that live behind it need to know. I mean, we're trying to get businesses in Laverne. I don't think this is going to help. A scrap metal yard across from another scrap metal yard ain't going to bring any more.
I think there are a few differences, and I'm not stating what you're saying is wrong. There's a few differences. The positives were, number one, you had a empty structure that sat there for 4 years, and I believe they said they would bring in 30 jobs, and they would be all hired from local areas. So again, there's some positives there, and I'm not saying one way or the other. I'm looking at it more as we're voting on zoning right now. But if we want to defer it and let the public have a say on it, or
I'd just like to know, let the residents know that are behind it. I didn't realize it was 800 feet to the closest residence. I mean, we've had some recycling places over there that were pushing walls out, and their trash was running over on the residents' properties. It's just...
Well, it wouldn't be anything but fair to let them speak.
And that's the thing, it's just, with the sign where it was at, I don't think they have any idea. I'd like to give them time to come and speak.
Probably point out there are residents too, it's just there, I know you're talking about the ones that's back, but Newview also, if they don't go back, they.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying, if you don't come down there, I mean,
You
you
don't
got
see it.
Minerva, and actually Minerva is probably one of the houses that's 800 feet from it with the woods right there. It's
Yeah, the
just a few
Minerva's-
hundred yards.
Minerva's the ones that's 800, and then like I say, Newview actually got some that back up to it.
much
And
less,
then
yeah.
you've got, even I think it's
I think it's
Piercy
Piercy.
Street, they're
Yeah,
closer. with
and,
it.
and
Yeah.
they don't come down through there. And that's the thing is, I don't think they realize this is happening. And I want them to be aware of it first. That way we can all see what they want, get a feel for them before we make a vote.
Well, y'all be ready to decide Tuesday night how we want to approach this. Okay? Next. Resolution 2014-07, a resolution of the City of Laverne Board of Mayor and Aldermen to declare certain property owned by the city to be surplus to the city's needs and directing disposal of the same. Who has this one?
Mayor, this is a resolution we typically have approved for when we do need to dispose of surplus property. As you can see in the resolution, there are several vehicles from the police department, and then we have various equipment and awarded evidence that we also need to dispose of. And then if you get down further, you see there's some things from the fire department, from each station, 1, 2, and 3. And the items actually from Station 3 are 2 pieces of apparatus that we hope to be able to sell at a good price and be able to put that money back into some other purchases we need for the fire department. And then, of course, down further in the resolution, we do have some property that we don't feel is safe to sell as surplus. So what we're proposing to do there is sell it as scrap or dispose of it as garbage, essentially. And that's the synopsis of this whole resolution.
And Evan, I have a question that's been asked by, and this, I guess you and Phyllis, several of the departments. When we have like larger items from these departments, can we legally, they've asked, can we not vote that the money from their items go back into the department to purchase other large items for that department?
Mayor, that's a great question. I don't know the answer right off the top of my head, but I'll be happy to have an answer on Tuesday night.
I mean, they asked, and I thought, well, that is a good question.
Sure, it is, yeah.
So
I will look into
Okay.
it and get with Phyllis, and we'll have an answer for you.
Okay, excellent. I'm sorry, do I have any other questions on that? Okay. Number 10, Resolution 2014-08, a resolution to amend the Personnel Policy and Procedure Manual in regard to pay in lieu of vacation. Does Ms. Cheryl have this, or?
I can speak to this one. When we updated the Personnel Policy and Procedures Manual last year, we had left out a provision to allow employees to basically sell back vacation hours and get paid for those instead of taking the time off. So all this resolution here does is add this new paragraph C, which is on page 2 of this item and 3. Basically, it's the same policy we had previously that will allow an employee to sell up to 40 hours back after they have already taken 40 hours off during the calendar year. So it's the same policy that we used to have. It's just putting it back in the personnel handbook where it belongs.
I know, I can't believe all of us, we let that, we didn't see that one. Do I have any questions? Any questions? Next, number 11, Resolution 2014-09, a resolution to amend the Personnel Policy and Procedures Manual in regard to the fire department benefits. And I believe Chief Culberson, you have that. The stage is yours.
In the current city policy manual, it's actually configured for an 8-hour employee, so we did make some adjustments. We'll be going 24/48, and with that, the national accepted standards is to figure a 24/48 employee on a 56-hour work week and also a 12-hour work day. Some comparisons here, 2 new terms you'll need to get familiar with, work shift and work day. Work shifts, naturally 24 hours, work day for benefits configuration will be 12. Just a comparison here to normal 8-hour, 40-hour week employees, a 24/48 shift employee will work 29, 19 approximately hours per year versus a 40-hour at 20/80. So you take that ratio to figure benefits. Again, this is a holiday time. I'd like to look into it first. National standard is firefighters receive holiday time or holiday compensation at a rate of time and a half, consistent with what the city does now. The firefighters are very happy with receiving 12 hours added to their pay accrual in lieu of pay, which will save the city cost reduction over the next year a ton of money. Again, too, that holiday time would be issued whether an employee is working or on their regular day off. Whoops. Closer to the mic. Okay. I'll learn this. Give me a little time. Thanks. What? You got me now? That ain't working.
Yeah, you do.
Okay. All right. Current benefit, vacation benefit, we'll look at it next for a 40-hour employee. There you go, just some comparisons. It starts climbing with seniority and longevity, or the term longevity. It goes all the way up to 200 hours. If you take those numbers, transpose them over to a 12-hour employee, which the fire will be, there they are. Notice the different caps and accrual rates that is equivalent to the hours worked. One big note, if you'll look, just a comparison there, 2 to 5 year employee, I can't remember, we'd have to go back and look. Now remember, this is based on pay period, which is 26 pay periods in a year. And continuing on up to 20 years, your most longevity employees will start climbing at that. On the sick time, currently city policy is 9 8-hour days for 40 hours. Take that again, transpose it over. 10 hours per month, total 120 per year. That's equivalent to a 12-hour, 120-hour accrual per year. There's no cap currently in the city policy. However, there is no payout or buyout upon retirement or termination or separation. Bereavement, currently it's 3 8-hour days for 40-hour employees, 1 24-hour shift would be equivalent for us. 3 8-hour days time, 3 times 8 is 24. Personal days, again the same, 3 8-hour days, 1 24-hour shift for us. So all it is making a few clerical changes in the human resources manual.
And what people need to understand too, where your normal 40-hour, if you want a day off, you get 1 day off. Yes. Whereas with a firefighter, and to get a 24 hours off, you have to take 2 days to get it. So does that make sense? Whereas like, if say, you know, Phyllis, you want to take a vacation day tomorrow, you get your vacation day. But if it's a firefighter wanting the day off, he has to use 2 of his vacation days for 1 day off.
Easy comparison here. The normal average person goes on 2 weeks vacation. That's 80 hours. Firefighter went on vacation, taking 2 weeks, it's 120. So that's the reason the accrual needs to be a little bit higher. And also they're working more hours. But the holiday time is huge. It would be a huge saving for y'all. These guys are very ecstatic about that, awarding time off in lieu of pay. Any questions? I don't know if I'm supposed to do this, but I want to give a big shout out to the Building and Maintenance Department for helping us out this week at Station 2 with the gigantic flood up there. And from Chief Clark and myself, it's a pleasure to be here, and thank y'all for having us. I guess this is our official introduction. Any more questions?
We thank y'all.
Thank you.
Good job. All right, moving right along. Resolution 2014-10, a resolution to authorize the city attorney to prosecute such claims and causes of action as, in his judgment, are available to the city of Laverne in connection with the municipal code violations at 117 Mercury Drive. So do we need to start with you, Evan?
Mayor,
Okay.
it might be best to start with Randolph to describe sort of the issues they've been having with this one particular property, and then I'll explain what we want to try to do.
As you can see in this letter, dated back in July, April sent to the property owners at 117 Mercury to do a little bit of cleanup that was needed over there. And I think there's some photos, are they included? You might get a better idea of some of the concerns that we had as far as cleanup was concerned. They failed to clean up the property in the given time needed, and were cited to court and appeared in court. It was extended by the judge, giving some extra time to get some things done. They came back at that time, still nothing had been done. And over the period of months since July, it has stayed in this condition. They've been to court. The court, of course, the judge ruled in our favor. They paid, or were fined with court costs and fees and so on and so forth. Those fees and fines were never paid. Court costs were never paid. They go home, and we're still stuck with the same dilemma. There's no cleanup. So as we begin to move forward, there was some discussion about the city, and per our ordinance, the way it is written, that would give us the opportunity to go onto that property and clean up. I'm leery about sending a crew, contracted crew, into private property to clean up private property with taxpayer funds. The discussion went from us going into cleanup to have our legal department to try to remedy this situation. I feel better by having a court order from either Chancery Court or Circuit Court, Murfreesboro. Somebody that, would stand behind us rather than us, because, I mean, as it's been discussed, we could pick up something on that property that was of value to them and have an inherent value, unbeknownst to us, and we would destroy it, haul it to the dump. So we don't really want to be stewards of private property. But again, there needs to be some cleanup done there. Now, they have taken some of this material, instead of it being removed from the property as was asked to do, they've hidden it under tarps, behind OSB sheathing, various places along the property. They'll since July, they'll clean up a little bit, but not completely as we've asked, and then it will it'll turn back to what it was, what you see here. I mean, they'll try to clean it up a little bit, and then it'll come back to as you can see here. And at this point, this is pretty current. You can see there's no leaves on the trees. These photographs were taken recently, since the foliage has been off the trees. That's the condition of the property. And we just, we receive complaints from neighbors. It's not that we're going out there just, hounding them because we have nothing better to do. Neighbors that live nearby, they expect more from these folk. And, they complain to us constantly that it affects their property value, which it may very well. I'm not going to argue the case for it or against it. But it is in need of some cleanup. Evan?
There's obviously a limit to what city court can do in terms of punishing somebody for violating our ordinances. There's a limit of $50 for the fine and then court costs. The problem you run into, and I think thankfully it's been rare, at least in my experience here, that we've ever had to consider something like this, but most people don't want to be fined and have to pay the money, and so they correct whatever's wrong. But if somebody really doesn't mind paying the $50 fine and the court costs, they can keep going back and continue to get cited to city court and just ignore what the city court tells them to do. And when you have a situation like that, your next sort of step in that, and I do agree with Randolph, I think it's safer for the city to go to circuit or chancery court and get a court order for these people to clean it up, as opposed to us taking the risk of going on the property and taking whatever it is that happens to be out there. The other benefit to the city, I think, in this is that if we can obtain a court order from circuit or chancery court, ordering these folks to comply with the ordinance and clean it up, if they fail to do it, we can go back to court on a petition for contempt and have them incarcerated until such time as they clean it up. So it gives us a lot more teeth in terms of enforcing this ordinance than just the fine. And obviously, we don't want it to go there, but that's the ultimate thing that we could do.
And I'm going to point out one other thing. This is rare. I mean, this is, in the near 20 years I've done this, I have never had a homeowner that didn't at least try. You know, and if they were trying, I would be, and April and I both would be more willing to, you know, to give them the time they need, but they're just really not putting forth any effort that we can see to get this cleaned up. And it is rare, but through our discussions, you know, we've talked about this, and as a matter of fact, I mentioned to the chief at staff meeting one morning about having a police officer escort that cleanup crew. You know, we don't want that. We don't want that for the individuals there. We don't want that for the officers. We don't want that for the crew that goes on there, for us either. So I just feel like that, given this situation, this is the best recourse, best course of action we have. What reason they give for not cleaning it up? They don't, Mr. Alderman Walden, they don't offer any reason.
I mean, this residence has been a problem for years.
Yeah, there's been.
And I think they know there's nothing going to be done. I mean, until they get to this point, I think that's.
Are they actually living there?
Yes, ma'am. We've not been inside the property. I know DCS has been in there, and there have been some children removed from this property. I don't know the extent inside the property. That's a whole nother route to take in the future if need be. But there's been and Chief May can back this up as well. There's been a number of.
There's a lot of flashing lights out there every week.
Pardon me?
There's a lot of flashing lights out there every week.
And I mean, it's just.
It's a problem.
You know, here it is now, February of 2000, or you might as well say March of 2014, and our efforts began middle of last summer. And, you know, I don't like having to be in this position no more than anybody else, but that's got to stop.
And I feel sorry for the neighbors because of this West Nile virus and all those tires out
Yeah,
there. That alone
there are some serious health concerns as far as that goes. I mean, other than just being unsightly and unsanitary, there are some concerns that you know, there's car parts and so forth on the ground that anytime it comes a good rain, it washes through all of that material that's on the ground and it goes into the ground, and therefore it's causing some pollution hazards as well.
Just in that picture there, if that catches on fire.
Yeah, I mean, you're not going to get in there and.
You can't get to it.
Any questions?
Any questions? Thank you. Thank you, Evan.
And the actual resolution has not been written yet, but we'll have that prepared for Tuesday night.
All righty. Number 13, Resolution 2014-11, a resolution to change speed limits on Waldron Road. I believe, Chief, that's you.
Back several months ago when TDOT released Waldron Road, we had some issues, if you all remember, where they posted speed limits and opened it up and didn't bother to tell anybody, which caused some issues. But when they did it, they didn't come to us and say, okay, what do y'all think about this? They just posted whatever they wanted to, wherever. It put us in a position where from Rock Springs and Waldron Road intersection there at city limits, all the way through to Murfreesboro Road, we had 3 different speed zones that were there. Coming this way from Rock Springs, I'll walk you through it. Coming this direction at Mapco, coming northbound, it changes to 30 miles per hour. Another problem we had was our signs for part of that area were not the sizes they needed to be, based on the MUTCD. Coming on in, there's no change of that 30 mile per hour speed zone until you get to the cemetery between Arby's and McDonald's. And then there by the cemetery, it changes to 45. That's just a few hundred feet before you get to Ingram and Heil Quaker. Then you come on this direction and it doesn't change till you get to Murfreesboro Road. All right, going back southbound from Murfreesboro Road, the 45 goes all the way through every intersection there until you get to just south of Enterprise, or there in front of the Crystal, and it changes to 30. So in order to try to rectify some of those problems we got, and also the fact that we have between Bain and across now from it, just to that offshoot intersection we had, Bain and Bridgestone, from there back all the way to the county line, we want to go to 35 miles per hour there. It makes a lot more sense because you're going through those intersections, and from Bain and Bridgestone until you get to Heil Quaker and Ingram, you're only looking at a few hundred feet there. To get to 45 miles per hour, you're going to have to floorboard it. That's a bit too fast, 1.47 feet per second per mile per hour. So by reducing, coming back this way, properly announcing the reduction, we want to reduce the 45 there at Bain and Bridgestone to 35 and carry it all the way through then. There's no reason to have the 30 across the interstate bridge because it's 35 all the way to the county line. So we're better off to go ahead and have those two zones rather than pick up, slow down, pick up, and it's, you've got it so broken up, there's no consistency anywhere through there. We just think this will be much safer and will make a lot more sense.
And you've got a lot of red lights through there anyway.
That's the point. You've got those intersections with red lights. You're going to have to gun it at the red light to get going. And the red lights are set so that the speed doesn't pick up too much before you get between them. I mean, it's set up that way anyway because you're queuing traffic and trying to keep traffic moving at various times of the day, whatever direction. And in the mornings and afternoons, it's a nightmare through there anyway.
But any questions? Any questions of Chief whatsoever on this one? Got that? Next, Resolution 2014-12, a resolution to proceed acquiring property for the Hurricane Creek Greenway project.
Mayor, this is just a resolution that we need. Like we did with Walton Road and the other projects, we need this resolution to be able to give pretty much Evan the authority to acquire the property. We've made steps. You know, you've had Carol Croft who's working to do she's had appraisals and review appraisals are done at this point, and we're getting ready to do the negotiation. To do that, though, we need authority to acquire the property. So that's kind of what this does, is gives us authority to acquire, to go ahead and do the acquisition, which may or may not lead to condemnation on one tract. It might on another tract. It's supposed to be a donation. So, but we've got them both included just in case whatever happens. Evan will have the authority to take care of it as needed.
Okay. So that one kind of goes along, 14 and 15 along together.
The only thing on 15 I wanted to bring up is we do have, he's willing to donate the tract. However, in doing this process in the state and everything, you got to see if there's any liens, mortgages, or the taxes paid. Everything looks pretty good except for the taxes. And right now, taxes are delinquent back to, I think, 2010 with the county. So, in a set to do the donation, I feel like it's best. I think Evan would probably maybe agree that best if the city pay those taxes, and that way we get the donation, as opposed to the city paying for an appraisal, a review appraisal, to do the negotiation, pay attorney's fees to condemn the property, or also to pay just compensation if the owner of the property is willing to donate it to us. So it's going to save thousands of dollars by just paying the taxes, which at this point it's going to increase every month. They're late, of course, but at this point it's $1,255 roughly. So just want to bring that up, to do that. That would be the proper way to close it, because you definitely want the taxes paid and up to date on it once we go to closing, because if not, then the county could say they have interest in, the property we acquired, since the taxes were due and payable when we acquired it. So it needs to be clear.
The tax bills that are in the packet for item number 15 are good through the end of February. Of course, our meeting is not until March. And then I don't know how soon that we would be able to close on the property if we do accept the donation, but you're probably looking at April if I had to guess. So we will revise the amount that's due for March before Tuesday night, so that you can see the current numbers for March. But there's a chance that it could even go a little bit higher than that if it goes into another month. 'Cause I think it's 1.5% per month for penalty and interest.
And again, we'll remind everybody, this is Greenway money that we've had for years.
We definitely have to acquire the tracks. We'll lose funding. We've got a deadline on
Yes.
that, so.
All right, any questions? Number 16, motion to approve property damage release from direct insurance for City of Laverne property that was damaged in a car accident on April 23rd, 2013.
Mayor, this release is through direct insurance. It's for $15,000, which is the maximum amount of coverage that was provided to the owner of the vehicle through direct insurance. When this accident occurred off of Fergus Road, obviously the city expended a whole lot more than $15,000 because this is the one where NES repaired the guy wire and drilled right through a sewer line and caused that big sewer spill over there. Thinking we spent in the neighborhood of $40-something thousand to clean up that spill. It's a decision of this board whether or not to accept this property damage release and only get the $15,000. The other option, I think, and Evan can speak to this, is to basically sue the owner of the vehicle to try and recoup the remainder. But that's a decision that this board would need to make. And Evan,
I guess it was a vehicle accident. It wasn't where NES drilled through. That was up from there, but, they took care of that.
I thought this was all the cause of that same work.
The wire the cable was there, and when the guy hit the tree and then hit the guide wire, it pulled it through the sewer line. Okay. And we didn't notice it for a couple, maybe 2 weeks when we mowed there, when we found the sewer, but this was from the accident. And it was right at $42,000, because I think it was close to $30,000 for the cleanup. But that was the accident where they drilled through it was right up from it.
Okay, I misunderstood that.
No, I'm sorry.
And they NES took care of that. Okay.
I don't know. I can't see agreeing letting the taxpayers pay the other $30-something thousand. I mean, we may not get a dime out of these people, but I just have a problem hanging that other 30 grand on taxpayers' heads.
I mean, is that the amount owed? Is it 40?
I think we paid everything's been paid. For hazmat and all. And then when I started dealing with them, sometimes towards the end of the year, and we couldn't get anything out of them. And then finally, you know, I kept sending her all the invoices, and she said, we're state minimum. We only cut, he's only got $15,000. That's all we'll pay out. And then when I talked with you about it, you said it may be where you could go, you know, to the individual himself, but.
Yeah, the reality of this is probably that with the policy at the minimum, the odds are that there's probably not money on the other side of that would make it worthwhile to the city to even pay to pursue. And I don't disagree with the vice mayor at all. I don't want to hang anything, but I'm not sure it's cost effective in this scenario to go after the person, but that's up to the board.
Like I say, this is drug out since like May, June, maybe when we started, because I get all the accident reports on something on city property. But it was.
Any more questions? And on a lot of this, between now and Tuesday, if y'all have any questions, please contact Bruce. If you feel like you need to, of course, welcome to contact Evan. If y'all have any more questions, this is another one of those, just a bad situation. And I'm like, Chris, you know, what do you do?
I know.
Yeah, well, there was no, yeah. Okay. Number 17, discussion. Ordinance to amend Title 7 and Title 12 of the Laverne Municipal Code by adopting the following standard codes: 2012 International Fire Code, 2012 International Code, 2012 International Plumbing Code, 2012 International Fuel Gas Code, 2009 International Energy Conservation Code, 2012 International Mechanical Code, 2012 International Residential Code, 2012 International Property Maintenance Code, 2012 International Existing Building Code, 2012 International Private Sewage Disposal Code, 2012 International Swimming Pool and Spa Code, and 2009 ICC Accessible and Usable Buildings and Facilities Code. Wow, that was a mouthful.
I was going to say, you want to read it again.
What she said. Any questions?
I do. Why do we have a couple of 09s in there?
I'll get to that.
Okay, gotcha.
Thanks for asking, because that is pertinent, very pertinent to what we're about to undertake here. As most of you know, some may not be familiar with it, from time to time we have to adopt new codes. The state requires us to stay within 7 years of the most available code, and the 2015 will be coming out sooner or later, and that will put us behind the 8 ball. So we need to act now. For that reason, and as well as others, I've got a couple of building designers and project engineers who are putting together some building plans for some future projects here in Laverne, and I've advised them to start looking at doing under the 2012, because we're going to abandon these we're going to have to abandon the 2006 I-codes very soon. One of the and in that packet you see the proposed code changes and modifications. These modifications are what has been hashed over since probably this time last year by every jurisdiction in this county, and confirmed with other jurisdictions throughout Middle Tennessee. I have been able to extract from some and apply them here, and most of what all of what I've presented to you here is what I feel like is in the best interest of this community. Some span charts have changed due to some testing of building materials. Now, back years ago when these span charts were designed and drawn up, they were done so with more dense wood, old growth lumber. This that's being used now is grown rapidly and is put into use quickly, and it just does not have the same characteristics as old growth lumber would. So a lot of the rafter spans, floor joists, these tables have changed. One of the sections here that flood hazard areas, this was a section, if you'll look on that first page, 12602, well, excuse me, 12102 modifications, section B, 10.10.1 flood hazard areas. This is a section that you're going to see a lot of throughout most of these codes that I've put together. It's a section that was added in 2012. It was not in 2006. It was not in 2009. And anybody and everybody that has had any comments about this, they want it deleted from that code. It pretty much throws some liability into the face of that jurisdiction by one man's decision, and that's when you're dealing with flood, as we all know. I mean, it's what the FEMA maps are, best designed for, and you'll see this, as I said, throughout most of these, building code and residential code. I'm not going to go over all of these, as Bruce and I will eventually cover most of it and bring back to you. We're going to try to present to you in the April meeting, the first reading of this. We need, as I said before, I want to get this done sooner rather than later, so that some of these projects that we all know is coming, that they have, a foundation in which to design those buildings from. There's changes galore from the 2006 to the 2012, all of which have been preyed upon and hashed over by every jurisdiction throughout this Middle Tennessee and in this area. One of the key elements in the residential code, and there's obviously some changes to be made, but I'm sorry, these pages aren't numbered, but if you'll refer to the residential code changes, Title 12, and it shows Chapter 6. We'll have to revamp those chapter numbers as well, because I did a lot of copy and paste on this. But down here where it says Section N, 1 and 2 family dwellings, automatic fire systems, I have shown here to delete this section in its entirety. That's going to be up to you to delete it or keep it. And what it is, it's residential sprinklers, and that's been a hot topic for years now. Some of my department would like to see everything sprinkled. Outhouses, dog houses, you name it. And sprinklers saves lives. I'm all for sprinklers. I'm a big fan of a fire sprinkler. They save lives, they save property. As we all know, back a month or so ago over in Nolensville and in other areas, not just Nolensville, I don't want to isolate them as being the problem, but there were roughly 40 homes in Nolensville that had residential sprinklers as it's required in the city of Nolensville. They froze, burst, of course caused a lot of property damage due to that condition. I don't understand the process behind this. Of course, it's state law that a licensed contractor must be the only ones to install those fire sprinkler systems, and they were being allowed to sign off on their own work. They weren't properly insulated. Matter of fact, they were insulated from a heat source, which only served to accelerate the freezing of those pipes. So there is good. I guess my point is there is good in having a residential sprinkler, and there are some hazards involved. I'll just point out that other jurisdictions throughout Rutherford County, the county itself, Murfreesboro, Smyrna, they've all deleted this section of this code. It's up to you as a board to decide if that's what you want. That's why I'm bringing it to you now as a discussion topic, so that you'll have time to digest this between now and a month from now when we come to vote, because first reading of this, it'll either be there or it won't be there. It's up to y'all.
I do have a question. Could it be like some of your larger homes, number one, over so many square feet? And we do have some pretty large homes here. Number two, I want to know, you consider apartments residential. Are those required in apartments now, or does that have to fall under this code?
Okay, let me summarize that briefly, if you will. Mm-hmm. A jurisdiction in Wilson County has this to say about that. Mm-hmm. That a single family dwelling, they're not going to require you on any size, whether it be 5,000 or 5,500 or 10,000 square foot to be sprinkled for one reason. There's a king to every castle. And if that king wants to burn his kingdom down, then so be it, by whatever actions he may take within his own home. When you have a duplex, triplex, townhomes, anything where you have multiple families, kingdoms as you will, and a king to rule under one roof, then you bring upon the liabilities or the problems that may result there. They say, and I won't name names of jurisdictions, but single-family dwelling, no. Everything else, yes. And I mean everything. Daycares, everything, yes, sprinkled. And it can be written so that I mean, it takes a little work to do, but it can be written so that you know, you make the determination. In other words, for example, here too, section R313.1 townhouse automatic fire sprinkler system says delete the first sentence and replace it with an automatic residential fire sprinkler system shall be installed in all townhouses with more than 3 dwelling units of more than 5,000 gross square feet, regardless of the number of dwelling units. So I mean, it can be written so that it suits your needs. Y'all tell me what you want, and I'll kind of help you with some of your options, but you tell me what you want, and we'll see to it. I'm a fan, like I said, of residential sprinklers. They save property, and they save lives, and they work.
Got something to add?
I figured you'd want to.
If you remember back several years back, this was brought up. It was during our code change at that time. I was acting fire marshal at that time. I think we brought up escape ladders in second story residential homes, brought up residential sprinkler systems. At that point, we did back up, and rather than making it mandatory in all residential homes, we even were going to set that as a 5,000 square foot, 3,000 square foot. I think at that point we were proposing 5,000 square foot or larger. It met very, very, very strong opposition from the developers in the city at that time. And basically, before it was over with, it was scrapped, in my opinion, due to the developers pushing so hard. Obviously, I'm speaking on behalf of the fire service. We would love to see, as Randolph said, I'd sprinkle a doghouse. It saves lives. To me, it's very inexpensive during the time of a home being built to implement it. As Randolph said, Nolensville had some problems. In my opinion, it was from them policing them themselves. As he said, the homes were, the sprinkler systems themselves were insulated on the opposite side. Instead of holding the heat in on the sprinkler systems, it was done the opposite direction where it actually held the heat off of them. And we're very few of those. For as many homes as there are that are sprinklered in that area, there were only a few that occurred in.
It was one or two particular builders, and I don't even know who those builders are, so I don't have no problem saying that. But every builder in Nolensville did not have these issues. It was just a few. It was isolated to a few builders that had the bulk of the homes that were damaged.
I will say that in our opinion, from fire service side of it, that we do need to explore, at a minimum, in my opinion, at least setting a square footage.
We fought that good battle, didn't we?
We did. We fought that for several months.
Yep.
It even come down, if you remember, even we had a demonstration of the second floor escape ladders. I think it was going to add $130 per home for a developer or contractor to put in, and that met so much opposition that finally it was just let go. Once again, this is a good time for us to address this back again. I'd hate to see it just totally and completely took out altogether. Be more than willing to work with Randolph and the codes department and legal and everybody in the city, but we have to start somewhere. And at this point, there's what better time to do it than just adopting code.
What my biggest fear is with establishing a number, you're going to see building plans will come into this department just a shade under. I promise you they will, to avoid having to sprinkle that home. It's not that expensive to sprinkle. I don't know why I don't really honestly know why they don't want it. I don't understand. I don't live in a sprinkled house. I'd like to live in a sprinkled house, can't afford to put it in at this time after the fact. If I'm building a new home, I'll go on record saying I want sprinklers for my safety of my family. And as I get older, who knows? So having a sprinkled home, it's a great idea for anyone.
I agree.
But I mean, just to give you, you know, a little food for thought that this will come about because we're going to have to adopt. Now we're going to have to adopt a code that has this in it. The 2006, it was not there, but now it is there in this code, and we're going to have to either tackle it straight on, or as I said, and I put this in here for when you go to look at this, you'll see delete this section in its entirety. That's only because I put that in there, only because that's what the majority of this county has done. The county, Murfreesboro.
Well, I don't want to delete it.
Very
I want
good.
to come up with something.
Well, and we should come up with something. I mean, there's, like, you know, there's some homes that are being built out in some subdivisions down Walden Road, McFarland Point, Woods of Martin Bend. Some of those homes are scaring 4,000 square feet, you know, and they're big. I mean, it would be a nightmare for a department to try to go in to some of these homes that are being constructed today with full gear on, full packs going in there to try to get somebody out. If it's sprinkled and the fire's out when they get there. 95% of the time, the fire's out when they get there in a sprinkled home.
I mean, my argument's we got a great fire department. It's a small fire department. Anything we can do, it's going to save their lives, families' lives.
And I don't know how, I mean, I'm sure it's going to affect your ISO rating somewhat that with new construction being sprinkled at this point, but, you know, so you'll have something to think about between now and this time next month when I come back to the workshop at the end of the month, end of March. There'll be, and I don't mean to say that I'm putting this, you know, throwing this on you just because I have nothing else to do. I have several projects that are in the works that need to know, and I'm like, well, you know, I can't put this off just so that you can get your plans into me under the 06. So I'm letting them know that we're on the cusp right now of adopting that 2012 code so that as they start to draw up some plans, building plans to present to us, that we can review those plans based on what we have adopted. So I hate it's that way, but, you know, I guess under pressure, we tend to work well. So I got a stack of codes. I've included a couple of codes that weren't a part of what had been adopted in the past. I know Bruce had some question about the handicap code. It's the ICC A117. That's the go-to code these days for, used to be the North Carolina handicap code, and that was considered pretty much the industry standard. But nowadays it's considered this ICC because there's so much greater access to ICC. It's the code that I feel is best for reviewing for handicap purposes. Private sewage disposal. We still have a few septic systems in this community. I felt like that it would be a benefit to us to have that code adopted as well. Pool and spa, swimming pool and spa. Just there, you know, of course, that's part of that is an appendix in the residential as well, but just felt like that it needed to be adopted as a code here as well. I have taken from other jurisdictions that we have sat down and studied these together. I have taken from what others have done, and Evan has a very close contact to what Rutherford County has adopted. Of course, they're probably a bit more lenient in the fact that they're in the county, but, you know, jurisdictions from Williamson County to Wilson County to you name it. And I've tried to pull together the best that I could gather out of all that and present to you, and it'll resemble this, what I have proposed to you now. It will resemble that greatly as Bruce and I and Evan, we continue to review this and come up with a best fit for the city.
It doesn't make sense to me that the county would take out the fire sprinklers.
Well,
because
no.
it's further for those guys to get out there.
Yeah.
To put out a house fire.
Well, like I said, there are pros and cons to having a residential fire sprinkler system. And, you know, and my hat's off to the city of Nolensville for adopting that ordinance years ago. They said then that it's gonna kill Nolensville. Well, I had to drive through there this morning. It's not killed it at all. I drove through there this morning and passing down through some of those city streets through there. I mean, there's houses on hillsides for as far as the eye can see, and they're sprinkled. So it didn't kill it. You'll have opposition from builders, as Ricky mentioned, but, you know, it's up to the city to decide what they feel like's best for the citizens of this
And
community.
you work with Ricky, Chief Culberson, Chief Clark, and y'all are all good at working around these things, reading, coming from different areas. May bring some thought to that.
I'm open. I mean, I'm like a sponge. I'll soak up anything you send my way. You know, I want, like I said, I want the best for everyone in this community. And
Because I'm like Chris, I come from the background where we sprinkle everything, because I get to hear those horror stories.
Sure.
Not only see them from these guys and be with them on majority of them, but I get to hear about it.
well, if
From
anybody
mine,
ever took the time, go on the internet, go to YouTube. I'm sure there's a lot of videos on YouTube that you can view that will, you know, show the response time to a sprinkler head activation to the time that it puts out the fire from the ignition source to where it actually is on fire, and that the response of that sprinkler head. Look at it. Just go on YouTube and look. Just search sprinkler head activations and so on and so forth. There's a wealth of information out there that will, you know, I wished I could put it in my house. Like I said, maybe someday I'll hit the lottery and I can do so.
I'm for it. Y'all pick what y'all want, y'all think's best, and
Well, we'll have to bring something back to you here in a month.
I
So
mean,
that
if you want to do, like you said, they did up in Wilson County, you want to do everything, I'm gonna back you on it.
Well,
All I can
the fact is that when that 15 hits the store shelves, we're gonna have to be, I mean, the state's already surveying departments throughout the state now to see how many inspectors you have. What certifications do they have? What code are you under, you know? So they're already surveying the state now to see, because when that time comes, when that 15 hits the shelves, buddy, you better be there, because they're sure gonna start pointing fingers at you. And I don't want to be in that hot seat when that time, if that time should ever come. So, and I don't want that for y'all either, because not only will it affect me, it will affect you too. Every one of you.
Get it done.
Any questions?
Thank you
you for your time. Yes, ma'am.
All right, guys, we're down to the mayor and alderman comments. We'll start with you, Alderman Green.
I don't have anything.
All right. Last name? Alderman Waldron? Alderman Broker?
I'd just like to wish my wife a happy birthday tomorrow. Started.
Absolutely. But you're not going to tell her age. If you do, you will
She's
die,
only-
and we'd
she-
have to witness that death.
Well, she's not that old.
Please wish her happy birthday for all of us. With that being said, tonight, I will call this meeting adjourned.